My name is George Miller. I'm 65, a retired machinist. Every morning at 4 o'clock sharp, my wife, Helen, and I get up. She fires up the stove to fry eggs, and I slice the sausage patties. Our little food cart is parked under the sycamore tree just outside the west gate of Oak Haven State University. We sell a snack of our own creation, the egg in a blanket. It sounds simple enough. You take a sausage patty, slice it halfway through, but not all the way, and griddle it until it's nice and crisp. Then you crack a whole egg into the opening, letting the yolk and white wrap around the sausage. Once the egg sets, you flip it, sprinkle on some seasoning salt and a pinch of cayenne, slide it into a paper sleeve, and hand it over, piping hot. The key is the price, $3. Dad, Mom, you're pricing that way too low. Our daughter, Sarah, said over the phone. A cup of coffee costs more than that these days. Helen held the phone, her smile a little sheepish. The students don't have a lot of money. For $3, they could get a full belly. That's a good thing. I was squatting by the doorway, smoking a cigarette, saying nothing. Our Social Security checks combined come to a little over $2,000 a month. Sarah's in Cleveland paying off a mortgage, and our grandson is about to start preschool. We want to help out, but we don't want to ask her for money. Opening this food cart was the result of 3 months of planning. Our seed money was the $10,000 we'd managed to save over a lifetime. The cart was a second-hand find from a flea market. The griddle, the spatulas, the spice shakers, we picked them out one by one. Helen even went and got her food handler's permit. I want the kids to eat without worrying, she'd said. That's the only way I'll feel right about this. $3 was a price we'd calculated over and over. A sausage patty costs us about 50 cents, and egg is 30. The paper sleeve, skewer, propane, and seasonings add up to another 20 cents. All told, we make a $2 profit on each one. If we sell 100 a day, that's $200. In a month, on top of our Social Security, we could put away a decent amount. George, you sure about this? My neighbor Sal asked, catching me in the hallway. Waking up before the sun, breaking your back for a few bucks. I handed him a cigarette. Beats sitting around the house. You're a stubborn one, Sal said, shaking his head. Who's as honest as you two these days? Honest. I've heard that word my whole life. I spent my life as a machinist at the plant. The apprentices I trained always said I was too picky. If a screw needed 3.5 turns, it got 3.5 turns. A fraction more, and I'd make them do it over. Because of that, I rubbed a lot of people the wrong way and never once got an award for Employee of the Month. The machine I worked on never broke down, and a part one assembled never got sent back. Helen worked at the textile mill for over 30 years. Her eyes were like rulers. She could spot a single skipped stitch from 10 feet away. When the layoffs came, she was in the first wave to be streamlined. The plant manager said her efficiency was too low. 2 inefficient people making a home together. Now, all we want is to earn a little clean money in the most straightforward way we know how. Tomorrow's the first day, Helen whispered that night before we went to sleep. I'm a little nervous. I patted her hand. What's there to be scared of? Our food is honest. What if? What if nobody buys one? Then we'll eat them ourselves? I chuckled. You know I can always eat more. She laughed too, the wrinkles bunching around her eyes. At 3:50 a.m., the alarm went off. Oak Haven was still asleep, but the light in our small apartment was on. Helen tied on her faded apron, and I went to warm up the engine. It was just a 3-wheeled utility vehicle, but we'd polished it until it shone. At 4:20, we pushed the car out the door. Its wheels made a soft, rhythmic squeak on the empty street. Helen sat in the back, her hands cupped protectively around the egg basket, afraid a bump might break them. It was still dark when we arrived. Under the sycamore tree by the west gate, a couple of other food trucks already had their lights on. The woman who sold breakfast burritos glanced at us, but didn't say hello. I parked the cart, propped up the awning, and hung the hand-painted sign. Egg in a blanket, $3. 00. Helen had written the letters, neat and tidy. At 5 o'clock, the first batch of sausages hit the griddle with a sizzle, the savory aroma drifting far into the morning air. At 5:40, the sky began to turn a pale gray. A few students out for a morning run passed by, glancing our way, but not stopping. Helen arranged the freshly cooked egg in a blankets in the warmer, looking up at the intersection every so often. She kept wiping her hands on her apron. At 6:05, Our first customer appeared. He was a boy with glasses and a backpack, looking like he was on his way to the library to grab a study spot. "Ma'am, what's that?" he asked, pointing at the sign. "It's $3, Helen said quickly. "It's hot, just came off the griddle." The boy hesitated for a second, then pulled $3 coins from his pocket. "Okay, I'll take one." Helen, fumbling with excitement, opened the warmer, pulled one out, and handed it to him in a paper sleeve. The boy took a bite, and his eyes lit up. "Is it good?" Helen asked, her voice tight with nerves. "Yeah," the boy mumbled through a full mouth. "The egg is really good, and the sausage is crispy." He dug into his pocket again. "Can I get another one? For my roommate?" "Yes, of course." Helen was beaming. She turned to me. "George, get 2 more on the heat." That morning, we sold 27 egg-in-a-blankets. As we were packing up, Helen counted the wrinkled bills and coins, smoothing out each one and stacking them neatly. $81. After costs, we had cleared less than $60. "Tired?" I asked. "Not at all," she said, her eyes sparkling. "People really like what we make." Over the next week, business slowly picked up. Word spread among the students. There was a new cart at the Westgate where you could get a whole fried egg and a sausage patty for just $3. The lady always made the eggs perfectly round, and the old man's hand never shook when he added the seasoning. We started getting regulars. The boy with the glasses, whose name was Leo, came almost every day, always buying 2. After we got to know him, he told us he was from a small town in Appalachia and was here on scholarship. His monthly budget for food and everything else was just a couple $100. "Ma'am, for $3 here, I get a real breakfast," he said, without a trace of shame. "It saves me enough to buy an extra book or 2. After hearing that, Helen secretly added an extra half patty to his order the next day. Leo noticed and tried to pay for it, but Helen wouldn't hear of it. "You're a growing boy. You should eat more." By the second week, we were selling over 60 a day. Helen began experimenting with how to get the egg more tender and the sausage crispier. She discovered that if she kept the griddle at just the right temperature, the egg whites would set instantly while the yolk remained soft and runny. That way, when you bit into it, the richness of the yolk and the crispiness of the sausage would explode in your mouth. I figured out the rhythm of the seasoning. A dash of cayenne first, then the seasoned salt, with the final sprinkle landing perfectly on the surface of the egg. It was like being back at the factory, figuring out how to machine a part to a tighter tolerance or how to weave a fabric with perfect uniformity. That focus felt grounding. Until the day the woman who sold breakfast burritos walked over. Her name was Maria, and she was in her early 40s. She'd been running her truck on this street for 5 years. Her breakfast burritos sold for $6, and adding sausage or extra egg cost more. A fully loaded one could run you $9 or $10. "George," she said, standing in front of our cart, her face unreadable. "Business is looking good." Helen was in the middle of frying an egg. She wiped her hands and offered a polite smile. "It's getting by, thanks to the students." Maria didn't respond to that. Her eyes were fixed on our $3.00 sign. "Your price," she said, pausing, "isn't a little low?" My stomach tightened, but I kept a smile on my face. "We calculated our costs. We make a little profit, and that's enough." "A little profit?" Maria let out a short, cold laugh. "You two are collecting Social Security, right? You're out here for a hobby. But this is different for us. This is how we eat." She gestured down the street at the other food trucks. "The crepe guy is $7. The smoothie girl starts at $6. Now, the students come to us with their $3 and say we're ripping them off." Helen opened her mouth to say something, but then closed it. "George, I'm not trying to pick a fight." Maria's tone softened, but her words hit harder. "But this street has its own set of rules. We all keep our prices in the same ballpark, so everyone can make a living. You come in and drop the floor out from under us. What are the rest of us supposed to do?" She walked away, leaving Helen and me standing in silence. We barely spoke for the rest of the shift. When we got home, Helen placed the metal cash box on the table, but didn't hurry to count the money like she usually did. "George," she said quietly, Did we really price it too low?" I didn't answer, just lit a cigarette. "Maria has a point," Helen continued. "They have families to support on this. We do have our pensions. So what?" I watched the smoke curl upwards. "We raised the price?" "I don't know," Helen said, looking down. I just feel awful, like we did something wrong. The next day, our neighbor Sal stopped me downstairs. I heard you had a run-in with Maria, he said in a low voice. George, I'm not trying to tell you your business, but you didn't handle that right. How did I not handle it right? My temper flared. Think about it. You can make a profit at $3 because you and Helen don't count your own labor. But Maria has to pay a kid $100 a day to help her out. She's got rent, and her son needs braces. You come in and mess with her business. How's she supposed to make ends meet? I was stunned. I had never thought about any of that. I just assumed that as long as our product was good and our price was fair, our conscience could be clear. But the students, I mumbled. The students get a good deal, sure. But what about the other vendors? Sal patted my shoulder. George, this world isn't black and white. I admire your integrity. I really do. But sometimes being too righteous can hurt people. When we got to our spot that day, I could feel a change in the atmosphere. The other vendors, who used to give us a nod, now pretended not to see us. There was hardly anyone at Maria's truck, while we had a line of 7 or 8 people. One girl bought an egg in a blanket, then turned to her friend and said loud enough for everyone to hear, I'm coming here from now on. $6 for a burrito is a total ripoff. Maria clearly heard it. She shot a look in our direction, her eyes filled with a complicated mix of anger and hurt. Helen heard it too. As she bagged the next order, her hand was trembling. The bottom line, we sold a record 93 egg-in-a-blankets that day. But when Helen counted the money, there wasn't a trace of a smile on her face. That night, she spread her ledger out on the table and went through the numbers for me, one by one. The sausage patties we bought yesterday, $30 for a box of 60, so 50 cents each. A flat of eggs is $9 for 30 cents each. The paper sleeves were 15 for 100. She was meticulous, even calculating the daily cost of propane. If we sell 100 a day, our gross profit is $200. But then you subtract the depreciation on the cart, the permit fees, and our own labor. She looked up at me. George, we're not really making any money. I know, I said. Then why are we doing this? She asked. Just to hear a student say, wow, that's cheap. I was silent for a long time. Helen, I said, do you remember the year we got married? She looked at me, caught off guard. The factory was doing poorly. We were only making $70 a month, I said slowly. $140 between the two of us. We had to eat, pay rent, and send money back home. You were pregnant, and you were craving eggs, but we couldn't afford them. Helen's eyes started to well up. Then you finally scraped enough together to buy 2 eggs. You wanted to fry them for me, but I told you I didn't like them, just so you would eat them. I managed a small smile. Truth is, I was starving for them. I remember, she whispered. Back then, I thought to myself, when we have money someday, I'm going to make sure that anyone who wants a decent meal can get one, I said, looking out at the dark street. We don't have a lot of money now, but at least we can let these kids get a real breakfast for $3. Helen wiped her eyes and closed the ledger. What about Maria and the others? She asked. I thought for a moment. I'll go talk to her tomorrow. The next afternoon, I went to Maria's place with a 6-pack of beer. She lived in an old part of town, in a cramped 200-square-foot apartment filled with supplies for her business. Her son was doing homework at a small table. He saw me and shyly said, Hello, sir. Maria was surprised, but let me in. I didn't beat around the bush. Maria, we never meant to break the rules, I said, but we can't raise our price. So how about this? We'll only operate for 2 hours from 6 to 8 in the morning. After that, we pack up. We won't interfere with your lunch or dinner rush. Maria poured me a glass of water, saying nothing. I know things are tough for you, I continued. So, if you want, I'll teach you how to make the egg-in-a-blanket. It's simple. You can add it to your menu. Sell it for $4 or $5. It could be a good addition. Maria looked up, shocked. You'd teach me. A recipe isn't something you can hide forever, I said with a smile. Besides, having more good food on the street is a good thing for the students, isn't it? We talked for over an hour that day. Maria told me her husband had injured his back at a construction site and couldn't do heavy labor. The whole family depended on her food truck. Her son was in middle school, and his tutoring classes cost $150 a pop. George, she said finally, honestly, I wasn't mad that your price was low. I was scared that people like us, with no safety net, were about to lose the only thing we have. When I left, She walked me downstairs and pressed a bag of apples into my hands. "From my cousin's farm," she said. "They're sweet." From that day on, our cart was only open in the morning. As soon as the clock hit 8, we packed up, no matter how much we had left. Strangely enough, our business got even better. The students knew we were only there for 2 hours, so they came earlier. The line often stretched around the corner. Maria eventually took me up on my offer. She added a small griddle to her truck and started selling a deluxe egg in a blanket for $4.50. It used a fancier sausage and 2 eggs. When a student asked her why hers was more expensive, she'd say, straight-faced, "My rent is higher, and I've got a son to put through school." The students understood. The atmosphere on the street gradually relaxed. Sometimes, if we packed up early, we'd buy a coffee from Maria, and she'd always refuse to take our money. Helen whispered to me one day, "George, this is nice. This feels right." Yeah, it did. We were still selling our $3 egg in a blanket. We were still packing up at 8 o'clock without fail. We thought things would just keep going on, quiet and steady. Until one Saturday morning, a young man in expensive streetwear stood filming our cart with his phone for a very long time. The young man's name was Alex. He was my wife's grandnephew, a student at the university in Cleveland, majoring in digital media. He was in Oak Haven visiting a friend and happened to pass by our cart. He thought it had a certain rustic charm and, on a whim, filmed a short video and posted it on TikTok. In the video, Helen is frying an egg. The morning light filters through the sycamore leaves, landing on her gray hair. She's focused on the griddle, gently nudging the egg whites with her spatula so they perfectly envelop the sausage. Then she looks up and smiles at a student in line, the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes blooming like chrysanthemums. I'm standing next to her, turning another row of sausages with a long fork. With a flick of my wrist, I sprinkle seasoning, and the spices land evenly across the golden yellow eggs. Alex added a caption, "Oak Haven State Westgate. My grandpa and grandma's egg in a blanket cart. $3, and grandma will proudly show you her food handler's permit." This is what real life feels like. That night, Alex called me, buzzing with excitement. "Grandpa George, the video went viral. It's got almost 100,000 likes." Helen and I just looked at each other, having no idea what going viral meant. The next day was Sunday, our day off. But at 9 in the morning, Alex called again, his voice even more frantic. "Grandpa, Grandma, there's a huge crowd at your spot. They all saw the video and came looking for you." Helen started to panic. "But we're not open today." "I know. I told them, but they don't believe me. They're just waiting." Alex said, "Can you two come down here? I'm here now. We can film another video to explain." When we got to the Westgate, there were indeed more than a dozen people milling around. Young couples, an older woman with a grocery basket, and 2 college kids with professional-looking cameras. They swarmed us when they saw us. "Are you the grandpa and grandma? We drove all the way from the suburbs. It looks so good in the video. Are you selling today? We've been waiting forever." Helen was completely overwhelmed and looked at me. I saw the expectant faces and my heart softened. "Helen, go home and get the supplies," I said. "We'll make an exception today." We made an extra 50 that day and sold every single one. Many of the customers weren't students. They had come specifically because of the video. After buying their egg in a blanket, they wanted to take a picture with Helen, telling her she was as sweet as my own grandma. Alex filmed the whole thing. That evening, he showed us the numbers on his phone. The video now had 300,000 likes and thousands of comments. "Look, Grandpa, everyone is praising you." He read them out loud. $3 for a whole egg? This couple is the real deal. This reminds me of my own grandparents back home. So clean and hygienic, and she even shows her permit. I'm tearing up. Helen looked at the comments, her eyes turning red again. Do they? Do they really mean that? Of course. Alex said, "Grandpa, Grandma, you have followers now." I didn't really understand what followers were, but seeing Helen so happy made me happy too. Alex struck while the iron was hot. "Grandpa, Grandma, let me set up a TikTok account for you. We'll call it Oak Haven Egg in a Blanket. I'll come by often to shoot videos, and we'll let even more people know about you." Helen looked at me uncertainly. "Won't it be too much trouble?" she asked. "No trouble at all." Alex insisted. "I'll manage everything. You just do what you always do. Who knows, you might become a famous food cart." A famous food cart. That phrase gave me a strange feeling in the pit of my stomach. But I didn't say anything. Helen looked so pleased, happier than I had seen her in a long time. 3 days after the account was created, our cart was mobbed. The line stretched from under the sycamore tree all the way to the convenience store across the street. There had to be at least 50 or 60 people. There were students, but most were new faces, office workers, streamers, food vloggers. Someone had even driven in from the next county over. Alex had his phone set up on a tripod, chattering away. Check it out, everyone. This is my grandpa and grandma's cart. $3 a pop, an honest-to-God deal. Helen was sweating, trying to keep up. She had a dozen egg-in-a-blankets sizzling on the griddle at once, but she still couldn't move fast enough. I was next to her, bagging and taking money, my hands a constant blur. A young woman holding a selfie stick bought 3. She took a bite for her camera and said, "All right, food fam, look at this. The egg is cooked perfectly. For $3, you can't beat it. Smash that follow button, and next time I'll find you an even cheaper spot." She left, and a middle-aged man stepped up, asking for 10. "Sorry, it's a limit of 3 per person," I said. "Why?" The man grumbled. "I drove a long way to get here. I can't buy a few extra." "There are a lot of people waiting behind you," I said, gesturing at the long line. "Everyone wants a chance to try one." The man muttered under his breath as he bought 3, shooting me a dirty look as he left. That happened several times throughout the morning. When 8 o'clock rolled around, the line was still long. Helen looked at me, her eyes asking if we should pack up. I looked at the hopeful faces, then at Helen's exhausted expression. I gritted my teeth. One more batch. That's it. We broke our rule that day and didn't finish until 9:30, having made over 200 egg-in-a-blankets. We ran out of supplies, and there were still a dozen people who didn't get one. "We'll be back earlier tomorrow," they shouted. As we were cleaning up, Helen was so tired she had to sit on a stool just to catch her breath. Her apron was splattered with grease, and her hair was plastered to her forehead with sweat. Alex ran over, giddy with excitement. "Grandpa, Grandma, we peaked at 2,000 people watching the live stream today, and we got over $100 in tips." He showed us his phone screen, which was filled with colorful gift animations. "That money is for us?" Helen asked. "Of course," Alex said. "The app takes a cut, but the rest is yours. From now on, you'll make good money just from the tips." I stared at the numbers, a sour feeling growing inside me. That night, Helen's hands were shaking as she counted the money. We had taken in over $600 in cash, plus the $125 Alex transferred to us from the tips. Over $700. "George," her voice trembled. We made more in one day than we used to make in a week." I didn't say anything, just smoked my cigarette. "But I'm so tired," she continued, her voice dropping. "My back is killing me." I stubbed out my cigarette. "Starting tomorrow, we're setting new limits. 2 per person. No, 1. And we only make 150 a day. When they're gone, we're done." Helen was taken aback. "But what about all the people in line?" "We can't worry about them," I said. "If this keeps up, you're going to collapse." The next day, we added a new line to our sign. Egg in a blanket, $3. 00. Limit 1 per person. 150 made daily. The line was still long, but the complaints were louder. "Just one? That's not even a snack. I waited in line for 40 minutes just for one. Come on, Grandpa, give me a break. I'm buying it for my kid." Helen explained the new rule over and over, offering apologetic smiles, but holding firm. A few people stormed off, muttering about us getting arrogant and cashing in on the hype. The comment section on Alex's live stream was a war zone. Some people understood, while others accused us of getting full of ourselves now that we were famous. That afternoon, Maria came to see us. She didn't look happy. "George," she said, getting straight to the point, "now that you're so famous, could you give my business a shout out?" I didn't understand at first. "Just have your grandson mention my breakfast burrito truck in his video," she said. "I want to ask for a freebie. We can talk about a cut." Helen looked at me, her face a mask of discomfort. "Maria, we can't make that call," I said. "Alex, we can't tell that kid what to do." "You can't." Maria let out a sarcastic little laugh. "George, you're a local celebrity now. You're telling me you don't have any pull." She paused, then lowered her voice. "You sell 150 a day. That's $450. I sell 50 burritos. That's 300. All the students are lining up for you now. My business. I'm barely staying afloat. My heart sank. Maria, forget it, she said, waving her hand and turning to leave. Just forget I said anything. Watching her walk away, I suddenly remembered Sal's words. Sometimes being too righteous can hurt people. 5 days after we implemented the new limit, things came to a head. It was a Saturday, and the crowd was huge. It was only 7:30, and we had already sold more than half of our 150 Egg blankets. A young man with bleach blonde hair pushed his way to the front and slapped a $100 bill on the counter. Give me 20. I shook my head. Sorry, it's one per person. I'll pay extra, he said loudly. $5 each. 20 of them for 100. Keep the change. A murmur went through the line behind him. What gives him the right? We've all been waiting patiently. Yeah, who's he think he is? The blonde guy turned and yelled, Mind your own damn business. He turned back to me, his tone a little softer. Look, old man, I'll level with you. I'm a food vlogger. I have 200,000 followers. If I get what I want today, I'll give you a glowing review, and your business will blow up even more. But if I don't, he smiled. Well, I might have to tell my followers that you're rude to your customers. It was a naked threat. Helen flinched and shrank behind me. Alex was standing nearby, phone in hand, and the live chat was scrolling frantically. Some people were cursing the vlogger. Others were egging him on. Sell it to him. Let's see the review. I took a deep breath and looked the young man in the eye. Son, the rules are the rules. You could offer me $1,000, and I'd still only sell you one. The vlogger's face changed. Don't be a stubborn old fool. I've said my piece, I replied, turning away. Next. He didn't move. The line behind him was frozen. Alex hurried over to play peacemaker. Hey man, no need to get upset. How about this? My grandma will make you an extra large one with a double yolk egg. How does that sound? I want 20, damn it. The vlogger exploded, shoving Alex hard. Alex stumbled back, nearly dropping his phone. Helen let out a cry. In that instant, all the frustration and anger that had been building for weeks erupted inside me. I lunged forward and grabbed the vlogger's wrist. The strength from a lifetime of working with my hands was still there. What do you think you're doing? I stared at him. He struggled, but couldn't break free. A hint of fear flashed in his eyes. Hey, let me go. You're the one who needs to let go, I said, my voice low and steady. This is my card, and these are my rules. If you're not buying, then leave. The crowd fell silent. Everyone was watching us. The vlogger's face flushed red, then pale. Finally, he yanked his arm free and pointed a finger at my face. Fine, old man. You got guts. We'll see about this. He stormed off, the crowd parting to let him through. I stood there, my chest heaving. Helen gently tugged at my sleeve. George, let it go. I turned and saw Alex. He was holding his phone up, filming my face. Turn it off, I said. Alex looked confused. What? I said, turn it off. My voice was so loud it startled me. Grandpa, don't be mad. I was just trying to what? I cut him off. Trying to work us to death. Trying to get us into fights with strangers. Trying to turn us into people we don't even recognize. Alex stood there, speechless. I walked to the front of the cart and faced the waiting crowd. I took a deep breath and bowed. Everyone, I'm sorry. We're closing for the day. Please go home. A wave of protests erupted. What? We've been waiting for an hour. It's not our fault that guy was a jerk. I straightened up and looked at them. This isn't about you. This is about my wife and me. We're old. We can't do this anymore. Starting tomorrow, this cart is closed for good. Without another look at anyone, I began to pack up. Helen silently helped me. Her hand was shaking, but she didn't say a word. Alex stood off to the side, looking like a lost child. That night, we had 2 visitors. 7. The first was Leo, the student with the glasses who came every day. He arrived at 8, holding a bag of apples, looking nervous at the door. Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller, he said quietly. I heard. Are you really closing the cart? Helen let him in and poured him a glass of water. Have a seat, son, I said. Leo remained standing, his head down. Sir, about what happened today. We all heard about it. The guy's from the technical college next door. He's known for causing trouble. Please don't let it get to you. I gave a bitter smile. It's not because of him. It's us. We're just tired. But, Leo looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. But you don't understand. For a lot of us, getting one of your egg in a blankets in the morning is the best part of the day. He paused. I'm from a rural town. My parents are away working odd jobs. I get about $200 a month for everything. Your $3 breakfast means I can eat well. The money I save, I can buy books, go to a campus lecture, or even get a coffee with friends once in a while, just like everyone else. Your wife always makes my egg perfectly round, and you always get the seasoning just right. His voice choked. It's not about the $3. It's about knowing someone out there cares if we're eating well. Tears streamed down Helen's face. I felt a lump in my throat and had to turn away. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, if you're really too tired, I understand, Leo said, wiping his eyes. But if you're worried about trouble, about the crowds, we can help. The students can help. We can volunteer, take turns helping you manage the line, so it's not so hard on you. I was stunned. I had never imagined these kids would do that for us. Son, we appreciate the offer. We really do, Helen said softly. But we can't let you do that. You have your studies. It's no trouble, Leo insisted. Really, so many of us would be happy to help. We don't want you to go. Our second visitor was Maria. She came around 9, carrying a thermos of chicken soup. I heard you had a fight today, she said, setting the thermos on the table. Helen, this is for you, to build up your strength. Helen took her hand. Maria, don't say a thing. I get it, Maria sighed. I've watched you two run yourselves ragged these past few weeks. It's not right. You got famous, but at what cost? She sat down and looked at me. George, I know why you want to quit. I would too. But, she paused. You can't let one lowlife make you disappoint all the people who genuinely love what you do. I didn't speak. After you left today, everyone on the street was talking. Maria went on. Almost everyone is on your side. Someone got a video of that blonde jerk, and he's getting roasted online. Your nephew Alex even posted an apology video, saying he's done with the live streams and will just help you out quietly. She pulled out her phone and showed me the comments. Grandpa and Grandma, don't leave. We need you. A $3 breakfast shouldn't be ruined by internet hype. Let food just be food again. They were all messages of support. George, Maria said earnestly, if you two really quit, this street will lose something real. In this day and age, sincerity is a rare thing. You selling it for $3. That's a blessing for all of us. That night, Helen and I talked until late. George, should we keep going? She asked. I looked at her tired but gentle eyes. I thought of Leo with his red-rimmed eyes, of the chicken soup Maria had brought, of the kind words from strangers online. Yes, I said, but we're going to do it differently. The next day, we were back at our spot. The sign was new, written in Helen's neat hand, but the words had changed. Egg in a blanket, $3. 00. Limit 2 per person. 200 made daily. 6:00-7:30 a.m. Please line up orderly and be patient with each other. The line was still long, but it was orderly. Just as he promised, Leo and a few other students were there, wearing red vests, helping to keep things organized. Alex came too, but he didn't live stream. He just took a few photos with his phone. After the incident with the vlogger, our followers actually grew to over 100,000. Alex posted a pinned statement. At my grandparents' request, I will no longer be live streaming the sales process. I will only share occasional moments of their daily life. Please respect their way of life. To our surprise, that post got over 500,000 likes. The tone of the comments shifted completely. This is what a real influencer looks like. Humble and true to themselves. This couple is teaching us how to live. Even more surprising, Maria's business started picking up. People discovered that right next to our cart was a woman who made fantastic breakfast burritos. Many who couldn't get an egg in a blanket would go over to her truck. Maria told me later, George, I owe you one. I shook my head. This was all you, Maria. Life seemed to return to how it was. And yet, it was different. We still woke up at 4, still sold a $3 snack, still packed up at 7:30. But the people who came now shared a quiet understanding. They lined up patiently. They'd tell Helen, take your time, ma'am. No rush. And they'd smile at me as I sprinkled the seasoning and say, still got the magic touch, sir. Alex came by once a week to capture a little footage, which he'd edit into short, 2-minute videos. Sometimes it was Helen carefully inspecting eggs. Sometimes it was me fixing a wheel on the cart. Sometimes it was just us chatting with a regular customer. He wasn't chasing viral fame anymore, but it seemed to find him anyway. Every video got hundreds of thousands of likes, and the comments section became a haven of positivity. An ad agency called, wanting us to endorse a brand of seasoning for $50,000. We said no. A restaurant chain wanted to buy our recipe and open a franchise, guaranteeing us an income of at least $300,000 a year. We said no to that, too. Helen said, "Our little skill isn't worth that much money." I said, "It's not about what it's worth. It's about the fact that some money doesn't let you sleep at night." Alex politely declined all commercial offers on our behalf. In our profile, he added a single sentence. "My grandparents are just ordinary people running a food cart. They do not do endorsements, franchises, or accept investments. Thank you for your understanding." We never expected that sentence to go viral, too. The media started reporting on us, with headlines more dramatic than the last. The food cart couple who turned down millions, a light in the age of hype, the $3 stand, the egg in a blanket story. When fame doesn't change the heart. We had been pushed into the spotlight. This time, there was no escaping it. The local Oakhaven TV station wanted to interview us. The night after they called, Helen was so nervous she couldn't sleep. On television? I can't even speak in complete sentences. Just say what we always say. I told her the truth. The interview was scheduled for Saturday morning, right in front of our cart. A female reporter and 2 cameramen showed up with a mountain of equipment. A crowd gathered, bigger than any we had seen before. This time it wasn't just customers. It was curious onlookers, other reporters, and even a few fans holding signs that read, "We love you, Grandpa and Grandma." The reporter was friendly. She made small talk before starting the official interview. "George, Helen, you've become local legends, a breath of fresh air in the online world. How do you feel about your sudden fame?" I looked at Helen, who nodded for me to speak. "We don't feel much of anything," I said honestly. "We do what we've always done. Wake up at 4, pack up at 7:30, go home, and rest for the next day." The reporter smiled. "But your popularity is rivaling that of celebrities. You've had many business opportunities come your way. Why have you turned them all down?" This time, Helen spoke. "Miss, we just run a food cart. We sell a $3 breakfast. We don't understand endorsements or franchises. We just want to do this one thing well and make sure the students get a good, filling meal." Her words were simple, but the reporter listened intently. "So what are your plans for the future? Will you keep the cart going?" I took over. "We'll do it until we can't anymore. This is the only skill we have. As long as people want to eat what we make, we'll be here to make it." The interview lasted half an hour. We answered every question truthfully. There were no fancy words, no dramatic stories, just the plain thoughts of 2 ordinary old people. But when the segment aired, the response was overwhelming. The edited piece was only 15 minutes long, but the images of us, our gray hair, our calloused hands, our simple words, and the natural smile on Helen's face as she handed an egg in a blanket to a student, moved a lot of people. At the end of the segment, the reporter stood in front of our cart and said to the camera, "In an age that chases fleeting fame, George and Helen Miller have, in their own quiet way, held on to something precious: sincerity. A $3 breakfast isn't expensive, but the kindness behind it, the commitment to their principles, that is priceless. They've shown us that being viral doesn't have to be about grandstanding. It could be about a quiet, steady presence." The night the show aired, our TikTok account hit 1 million followers. Alex's phone rang off the hook with calls from media outlets, producers, and marketing agencies. But this time, we knew what to do. "Turn them all down," I told Alex. "Just say we're getting on in years and want to focus on our cart." Alex did as we asked. He posted a photo of a handwritten note from Helen. "Thank you all for your kindness. We're only doing what we feel is right. We will continue to be at our spot every morning, 2 per person. Please don't make a special trip. Leave the opportunity for the students who need it. With gratitude." That note was shared thousands of times. Some said we were masters of reverse psychology marketing, but most people expressed their understanding and support. To our relief, the lines at the cart returned to normal. There were still plenty of customers, but the frantic, chaotic crowds were gone. People would buy their breakfast, give us a nod and a smile, and quietly go on their way. It was as if we had all reached an unspoken agreement. We would provide a warm meal, and they would provide their quiet respect. We left each other in peace. A month of calm passed. In early November, the first snow of the season fell on Oak Haven. It was bitterly cold, and Helen and I wore our thickest winter coats. The line was a little shorter, but we still prepared our usual 200 servings. On cold days, the students needed a hot breakfast more than ever. Around 7, 3 men showed up. They were wearing black parkas and ski masks, and they didn't look like students or office workers. "Give us 6, the one in the lead said. I pointed to the sign. "It's a limit of 2 per person." "There are 3 of us." "That makes 6, the man replied. I looked them over and didn't argue, bagging up 6 and handing them over. The man paid, but they didn't leave. They stood off to the side, eating and talking in low voices. "This is it for $3. Yeah, cost of goods is probably $1.50 max. Profit margin is tight, but if you do it by volume." Their voices were hushed, but my hearing is still sharp. I caught bits and pieces. A warning bell went off in my head. Helen noticed it too and shot me an uneasy glance. After they finished, the 3 men got back in line and bought another 6 before finally leaving. The next day, they were back. This time they bought 8, and again, they stood nearby, eating and talking. This time I heard them clearly. Standardized recipe, central kitchen. On the 3rd day, they didn't come. Instead, a middle-aged man in a suit approached me and held out a business card. "Mr. Miller, my name is Davis. I'm the director of operations for the Morning Griddle breakfast chain. I'd like to discuss a partnership." I didn't take the card. "Sorry, we're not interested in partnerships." Mr. Davis smiled. "Don't be so quick to refuse. Our company sees huge potential in your product. We want to turn it into a national breakfast brand. We provide the capital and the distribution. You provide the technique and get a 30% stake in the venture. We project 500 stores within a year. Your annual dividends would be at least this much." He held up 3 fingers. $3 million. Helen gasped. I was silent for a few seconds, then shook my head. "Thank you for the offer, but we don't need it." Mr. Davis's smile faded slightly. "Mr. Miller, you may not understand the market. A product like yours, once it's copied, will be drowned out by competitors. Working with us is the only way to protect your brand." "We don't have a brand," I said. "We just have a little card." "It's a brand now," Mr. Davis said, his voice lowering. "To be frank, several companies are already looking at you. If you don't partner with us, they'll just copy you. Soon there will be an egg in a blanket on every corner. What will you do then?" I looked at him. "Let them. If it means more students can get a cheap breakfast, that's a good thing." Mr. Davis stared at me as if I were an alien. You're really not going to reconsider?" "I'm not," I said, turning back to the griddle. "Next, please." Mr. Davis left, and he did not look happy. I thought that would be the end of it. But a week later, a few people from the health department showed up for a routine inspection. They were incredibly thorough, checking our permit, the receipts for our ingredients, our cleaning process, our food storage, everything. In the end, they issued a notice of violation. The cart's awning was not up to code and needed to be replaced. We lacked a dedicated station for washing ingredients. Our trash can didn't have a lid. "You have 3 days to correct these issues. We'll be back to re-inspect. If you don't pass, you'll have to suspend operations." Helen was frantic. "Sir, we're just a small cart. These requirements." "The rules are the rules," the inspector said, his face a blank mask. "Food safety is a major priority now, and since you're a famous spot, you're under more scrutiny." They left, leaving us stunned. Alex rushed over when he heard. He looked at the list of violations and scowled. "This is obviously someone trying to mess with you. Every cart in the city uses this kind of awning. And a washing station? Grandpa, you wash everything at home before you leave." I knew what was happening. Someone was pulling strings. "What do we do now?" Helen asked. "We fix it," I said. "We replace what needs replacing, and we add what needs adding." We spent over $2,000. We got a new awning, bought a trash can with a lid, and even installed a small stainless steel sink on the cart as a temporary washing station. 3 days later, the inspectors returned and grudgingly gave us a pass. But then the city code enforcement officer showed up. He said we were obstructing a public way. Even though we were in a designated vendor area, our long lines were blocking the sidewalk. "Either you control the number of people in line, or you find a new location," the officer said. "How are we supposed to control the line? And where else could we go?" Alex made some calls, using a friend's connection at City Hall. He came back looking grim. "Grandpa, it's Morning Griddle behind this," he said. "Their owner has connections at the health department and with code enforcement. The word is out. Either you partner with them, or they'll run you out of business." Helen was trembling with rage. How can they do that?" I smoked my cigarette, saying nothing. "That's just how the world works. You get in the way of someone's money, and they'll try to get you out of the way, even if all you want to do is sell a $3 breakfast on the side of the road." A loan stand. In the days that followed, the line at our cart got noticeably shorter. It wasn't because people stopped coming. It was because someone was actively disrupting things. 3 thuggish-looking men started showing up every day. They wouldn't buy anything. They'd just stand near the line, smoking and swearing loudly, scaring off some of the quieter students. Maria couldn't stand it. She got into an argument with them, and one of them shoved her. She hit her back on her truck and had a nasty bruise for a week. Leo and a few other students tried to intervene, but were threatened. "Mind your own business, kid, or we'll find you after class." We called the police. They came, the thugs scattered. As soon as the police left, they were back. It was relentless. Alex wanted to film them and expose them online, but I stopped him. "Don't," I said. "It will only make things worse." "Then what do? Just let them bully us." Alex's eyes were red with anger. I patted his shoulder. "I'll handle it." The next day, I went to see Mr. Davis alone. In his office, I got straight to the point. "What do you want?" Mr. Davis politely offered me a seat and poured me tea. "Mr. Miller, we genuinely just want to partner with you. Think of it. We can expand the business, let more people enjoy your food. Isn't that a good thing?" "Using these tactics?" I asked. His smile didn't waver. "Business is a battlefield. Certain tactics are necessary. Mr. Miller, you're an older man. You may not understand modern commerce. But I'm telling you, working with us is your best option. And if I refuse, then that would be a shame," Mr. Davis said, setting down his teacup. "Your cart probably won't be able to operate much longer. Health, code enforcement, maybe even the fire department. If you look for problems, you can always find them." It was another naked threat. I looked at him for a long time. "Mr. Davis, you have parents, don't you?" I asked suddenly. He was taken aback. "If your parents wanted to run a little food stand, selling something they made with their own hands, and someone did this to them, how would you feel?" His expression hardened. "If my son knew I did business this way, he'd be ashamed of me," I said, standing up. "But I imagine that's something you don't care about." I walked to the door and turned back to him. "I'm going to keep my cart open. Whatever you have planned, bring it on. But I'm telling you, as long as I can stand, I will be out there every morning. I'll sell my $3 egg in a blankets, one day at a time." I opened the door and left. That night, I made a decision. The next morning, I added a small chalkboard next to our sign. On it, I wrote a message. "To all our customers, someone is trying to force us to close our cart, using all sorts of harassment. But we are not leaving. We have done nothing wrong. We're just selling a $3 breakfast. If you still want to eat here, please continue to come. If you're worried about trouble, we understand. Either way, thank you for all your support. George and Helen." That message was like a bomb. The students were furious. Who would do something so despicable? "Grandpa and Grandma, don't be afraid. We'll protect you. From now on, we all come and line up together. Let's see who dares to cause trouble." From that day on, the line at our cart didn't shrink. It grew longer. And now, it was filled with strong, young students who spontaneously organized to keep order. When the 3 thugs showed up again, they were surrounded by a crowd of dozens of students and quickly retreated. The media caught wind of the story. The local TV station did a follow-up report titled, "A $3 breakfast that corporate greed can't extinguish." In the report, the journalist interviewed students, other vendors, and local residents. Everyone was on our side. Maria cried on camera. "Those 2 are such good people. They work so hard just to make sure the students have a good meal. Why are these big companies bullying them?" Leo was even more direct. "If our society can't even tolerate a simple act of kindness that costs $3, what do we have left?" Public opinion was overwhelmingly in our favor. The health department and code enforcement office quickly issued statements, clarifying that as long as vendors complied with regulations, their right to operate would be protected. Morning Griddle released a statement denying any involvement in the harassment and announced they were suspending their egg in a blanket project. Mr. Davis was never seen again. We had won, but we were exhausted. Helen said, George, are we attracting too much attention? I shook my head. It's not us, Helen. It's the world that's gone greedy. The accident after the storm passed. Life returned to a peaceful rhythm. But Helen's health was getting worse. She already had a bad back, and the last 6 months of waking up early and standing for hours had taken their toll. Sometimes in the middle of frying an egg, she would have to stand up straight and press her fists into her lower back. I told her to stay home and rest for a few days, but she refused. If I rest, how will you manage on your own? I can hire someone. Hire someone? That costs money. Besides, the students are used to the way I make the eggs. That was always her excuse. Until that rainy morning. The ground was slick. As Helen stepped off the cart with the basket of eggs, her foot slipped and she fell hard. The egg shattered, a mess of yellow and white mixing with the rainwater on the pavement. She lay on the ground, her face pale, unable to move. My heart stopped. I rushed over to her. Helen, Helen, my back. I can't move my back, she said through clenched teeth. I called an ambulance. The diagnosis at the hospital was a severe herniated disc. She needed to be admitted immediately. The doctor looked at the x-ray and shook his head. Ma'am, you should have stopped this kind of work a long time ago. If you keep straining your back like this, you might not be able to walk. Lying in the hospital bed, Helen couldn't stop crying. George, what about the cart? Forget the cart. My eyes were burning. You need to get better. Alex rushed to the hospital, terrified. Grandma, don't you worry. I'll figure something out for the cart. But what could he do? Without Helen, I couldn't manage the volume on my own. And besides, the students were used to her eggs. Mine were never quite the same. We were forced to close. On the first day, we posted a notice on our TikTok. Due to Grandma Helen's back injury, the cart will be closed until further notice. We will post an update when we can. The comments section exploded. What happened to Grandma? Is it serious? Which hospital is she in? We want to visit. Is Grandpa George okay? Does he need help? Dozens of people sent private messages asking for the hospital address. We politely declined. But the next day, someone found us anyway. It was Leo and a few other student representatives. They brought a fruit basket and a thick, bound book. Mrs. Miller, these are get-well wishes from our whole class, Leo said, opening the book. Every page was filled with handwritten notes and drawings. Get well soon, Grandma. We're waiting for your eggs. Grandpa, don't work too hard. Take care of yourself. The $3 warmth can't disappear. Helen looked at the childish handwriting and began to sob. Maria came too, with a thermos of bone broth she had simmered all morning. Helen, you just focus on getting better. Don't worry about the cart. I've got it covered. How? Helen asked, surprised. Maria smiled. George and I have a plan. For the next few days, I'm going to help him run the cart. He'll cook, and I'll handle the customers. It won't be as good as you, but at least the kids will have something hot to eat. It turned out, without me knowing, Maria had come to me with the offer. George, while Helen is in the hospital, I'll help you. No pay. Just consider me paying you back for teaching me your recipe. I had tried to refuse, but she was insistent. You two are the only ones on this street who genuinely care about these students. Now that you're in trouble, if I just stand by and watch, what kind of person would I be? And so, after being closed for 3 days, the cart reopened. Maria and I were a team. I cooked, and she bagged and took the money. We were a little clumsy, but we managed. The students were surprised to see Maria, but when they heard what had happened, they were incredibly supportive. Thank you, Maria. We hope Grandpa and Grandma are both doing okay. During that time, the line at the cart was the most orderly it had ever been. No one was impatient. They would wait quietly, and after getting their food, they would say, Sir, please give our best to your wife. On the 10th day of Helen's hospital stay, I received an envelope. Inside was a wad of cash, $5,000, and a letter. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, we are students from Oak Haven State. For the past 6 months, many of us have eaten your breakfast every day and save a lot of money. This money is from a fund we all contributed to help with Mrs. Miller's medical bills. Please don't refuse it. It's a small token of our appreciation. We hope she gets well soon. The students who love you. I held the letter and the money, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I showed it to Helen at the hospital, and she cried again. These children, these wonderful children. We'll accept it, I said. It's from their hearts. Helen was in the hospital for a month. When she was discharged, she still couldn't stand for long periods. The doctor's orders were clear. At least 3 months of rest, no strenuous activity. What about the cart? My first thought was to close it for good, at least until Helen was fully recovered. But the students wouldn't have it. They started a campaign online. Let's help Grandpa and Grandma get through this. The idea was simple. Students would sign up for volunteer shifts at the cart. 2 students each day would help manage the line and assist with simple tasks. Helen and I would just need to supervise, not do the heavy lifting. Over 200 students signed up. The schedule was filled for the next 3 months. Helen and I looked at the volunteer roster, speechless. Finally, Helen said, "George, we can't let these kids down." And so, the cart reopened in a completely new way. I was still the head cook, but with the help of the student volunteers, my workload was much lighter. Helen would sit on a stool nearby, acting as the technical advisor. A little more heat. Spread the egg evenly. Yes, just like that. She couldn't work, but her eyes were as sharp as ever. Under her guidance, a few of the quick-learning students were already making a decent egg in a blanket. Maria would sometimes stop by to help, teaching the students how to interact with customers and keep the cart tidy. The little food cart had become a warm, thriving community. Alex filmed all of it, editing it into a series called 100 Days of the Egg in a Blanket Cart. There was no forced drama, just real life. Students clumsily frying eggs, Helen patiently guiding them, Maria and I laughing in the background, customers giving a thumbs up. The series went viral again. Not because it was sensational, but because it was real. Someone commented, "This is what community is supposed to look like. Not a one-way street, but a circle of warmth and support." Helen rested for 2 months, and her back was much better. She could walk around slowly. But then she made a decision that caught me completely by surprise. "George, I think I want to hand the cart over to the students." "Stay here." "What do you mean?" "Look at them. They're fast learners. They can already handle it on their own," Helen said, her gaze soft as she watched the student volunteers. "We're getting old. There will come a day when we can't do this anymore. But this cart, this spirit, I want it to continue." I was silent. She went on. "I looked into it. The university has a work-study program. We can donate the cart to the program as a student-run enterprise. Students from low-income families can work here, learn a skill, and earn some money." "And what about us?" "We'll be consultants," she smiled. "We'll guide them, watch over them, and when we're really too old to come out, this cart will still be here, still selling a $3 egg in a blanket." I looked at my wife, the woman I'd spent my life with. She was always surprising me. Back at the factory, she was the one who would argue with a manager over a flawed piece of fabric. After she was laid off, she sold goods at the flea market and never once complained. And now, she had come up with this. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I'm sure," she nodded. "George, we never did anything grand in our lives. But if we can leave this cart behind, leave this $3 warmth for others to carry on, I think I would be worth it." I took her hand. "Then that's what we'll do." We met with the university administration and explained our idea. They were incredibly supportive and immediately agreed to incorporate the cart into the work-study program, providing whatever support was needed. When the news was announced, it once again drew public attention. The media called it the most beautiful legacy. Online commenters said they were witnessing the true meaning of community. But for us, it was just the most natural choice. 3 months later, Helen's back was almost fully recovered. The cart had been officially handed over. The main crew was now 4 students from families with financial difficulties who worked in rotating shifts. Helen and I still went every day, but mostly we just sat on the side, watching them work. The students were dedicated. They had adopted Helen's habits. The eggs had to be round, the seasoning had to be even, and they had to smile when they handed the food to a customer. They also kept my rules. The price remained $3. The limit was 2 per person, and they packed up at 7:30. One day, an alumnus who had graduated years ago came back to visit and made a special trip to the cart. After one bite, he said in amazement, "It tastes exactly the same." One of the students at the griddle smiled. "We use Grandpa and Grandma's recipe, sir. We haven't changed a thing." The alumnus looked over at us, sitting on the bench, and gave a deep bow. "Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma." Helen's eyes got misty again. Alex captured the moment. The title of the video was "Flavors Can Be Passed Down." So can kindness. The final test. Just when everything had settled into a perfect rhythm, one final test arrived. The Morning Griddle chain went bankrupt. The scandal had destroyed their brand image, franchisees had pulled out, and their funding had dried up. But Mr. Davis hadn't given up. He started a new company focused on nostalgic breakfast foods. His first product was the classic sausage and egg melt, priced at $4.50. He opened his first location less than 50 yards from us, right across the street. It was a sleek, modern storefront with uniformed employees, shiny equipment, and a large banner that read, "The taste you remember, an upgraded classic." It was a direct challenge. The students were furious. The nerve of that guy. He rips you off and then sets up shop right opposite you. "Grandpa, Grandma, what are we going to do?" I looked at the new store across the street, feeling a sense of calm. "We do what we always do," I said. "They sell their food, we sell ours." On the first day, the new place was busy. A lot of people went over to try it out of curiosity. The environment was nicer, and they had tables. Our line was a little shorter. But by the second day, things had changed. Many of the people who had tried the new place were back in our line. "It's still better here. The sausage over there tastes artificial, and the eggs have no flavor. And $4.50 is too expensive." By the third day, the other store was nearly empty. Mr. Davis couldn't stand it. He came over to our cart himself and bought an egg in a blanket. He stood on the sidewalk and ate it, and as he did, his expression grew darker. He walked over to me. "Mr. Miller," he asked, "what on earth do you put in these?" I shook my head. "Nothing special, just sausage, eggs, and the simplest seasonings." "Then why?" "Because of the heart you put into it," Helen said, speaking up. "Mr. Davis, you're in the business of making money. We're in the business of feeding people. It's not the same thing." Mr. Davis stood there for a long time. Finally, he gave a bitter laugh and walked away. A week later, a For Lee sign appeared in the window of his store. Another week after that, a new bubble tea shop opened in its place. The students joked, "I guess bubble tea was a better fit for that spot." The storm had finally and completely passed. The egg in a blanket cart was still the egg in a blanket cart. $3. Limit 2. Closing at 7:30. 11 a year later. Helen and I rarely work the griddle anymore. The 4 students managed the cart perfectly, and the taste never wavered. We still came every day, sitting on a bench under the sycamore tree, watching the students bustle about and the customers line up. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling the ground. Helen leaned her head on my shoulder. "George," she whispered, "we've had a good life, haven't we?" I squeezed her hand. "Yes, we have. We never get rich. We never became true celebrities. We didn't change the world. But we helped thousands of students start their day with a hot breakfast. We passed on a small act of kindness. We gave a little corner of our city a bit of warmth. And that was enough." Alex still made his videos, but he no longer cared about the numbers. He just documented the life of the cart, the growth of the students, and the small, warm moments that happened every day. His account bio now reads, "Documenting a $3 kindness and the people who protect it." His follower count has stabilized at 1.5 million, and every video gets hundreds of thousands of likes. But we don't pay attention to that anymore. What's important is that every morning at 6 o'clock, under the sycamore tree, the scent of sausage and eggs still fills the air. What's important is that those young faces still smile and hand over a paper sleeve, saying, "Here's your egg in a blanket." That'll be $3. What's important is that this simple kindness is still being passed on. As Helen always says, life is just living one day at a time, doing one thing at a time. If you do it well, you can rest easy. New leaves were sprouting on the sycamore tree. Spring had arrived. This world has no shortage of ways to make money. What's truly rare is the heart that holds on to its principles when faced with profit.